The space between bars. The first time, Officer Maya Reyes pressed her fingers against the cold steel door of cell block D. She told herself it was just another shift. She told herself the woman sitting alone on the concrete floor, knees pulled to her chest, hair falling in dark waves across her face, was just another inmate. She told herself a lot of things in those early days. Quiet lies she wrapped around herself, like armor, because the truth was already forming somewhere beneath her ribs. Warm and terrifying and completely impossible. Maya had been a corrections officer for 6 years. She had learned to keep her eyes forward, her expression neutral, her heart safely behind the same kind of walls she was paid to maintain. She had seen things inside Millbrook Women's correctional facility that would unravel most people, as she had watched women break, watched them rebuild, watched them disappear into a system that so often forgot they were human at all. She had survived it by staying professional, staying distant, staying numb. And then Cora Vann arrived on a Tuesday morning in February, and Maya's carefully constructed distance began, slowly and irreversibly, to collapse. Cora had been convicted of fraud, a desperate scheme to keep her younger brother out of debt with people who would have done far worse, then put her in prison. She was 31 years old, soft-spoken, with eyes the color of dark amber that saw everything and gave away nothing. She did not cry when they processed her. She did not fight when they handed her the gray uniform. She simply looked at the fluorescent lights above her and breathed through it. The way someone breathes through pain they've decided they can survive. Maya noticed that. She noticed it the way you notice a fire burning quietly inside a closed room and the light slipping out from under the door. Impossible to ignore. Their first real interaction came 3 weeks into Cora's sentence, during a routine welfare check. Maya had found her sitting at the narrow desk in her cell, writing in a small journal with a stub of pencil, her handwriting slow and deliberate, like every word was something she was choosing carefully. Maya had asked if she needed anything, expecting silence or a one-word answer. Instead, Cora looked up and said she needed to understand why the library cart never came to Block D on Wednesdays when it was supposed to. It was such a specific, ordinary complaint, so quietly human, that Maya had laughed before she could stop herself, and Cora had smiled, just slightly, just enough, and something cracked open inside Maya's chest that she would spend months trying to close again. She began paying attention in ways she shouldn't have. She noticed what time Cora woke, how she moved through the common area with her head down but her awareness completely open, how she helped the older women without being asked, how she read whatever books she could get her hands on and then left them carefully outside other cells when she was done. She noticed the way Cora sometimes stood at the small window in her cell and pressed one hand flat against the glass, not looking out at freedom the way most inmates did, but looking up at the sky, as if she was just reminding herself it still existed. Maya had stood on the other side of that door once, watching without meaning to, and felt something so sharp and sweet move through her that she had walked away quickly, pressing her own back against the opposite wall, her heart loud in her ears. The facility had rules, obvious, absolute, written in ink and enforced with careers and criminal charges. Maya knew every single one. She had followed them without question for 6 years. But the heart does not consult rulebooks. The heart does not fill out incident reports or clock in and clock out. The heart simply responds to what is real. And what was real was that somewhere between February and May, Maya had fallen for a woman she could not reach, could not protect, and could not stop thinking about. She began to understand that loving someone from a distance is its own kind of prison, one with no walls you can point to, no sentence you can count down, just an endless, aching proximity to something just out of reach. The breaking point came on a night in late spring when another inmate, unstable and frightened, cornered Cora in the laundry room. Maya was first on scene. She moved fast, she moved clean. She got between Cora and the danger with a steadiness that came from training, but also from something older and fiercer than training. When it was over, when the other inmate had been removed and the room had gone quiet, Cora stood against the washing machines with her arms crossed over her chest, not shaking but close. Maya stood a few feet away, the regulation distance, the professional distance, and Cora looked at her, really looked at her, and said quietly that she had noticed Maya, that she had noticed her for months, that she didn't know what to do with it either. She said it like a confession and an apology all at once, and Maya felt the armor she had spent 6 years constructing simply fall away. She didn't touch her. She didn't say the things she was thinking. But she nodded once, and that nod carried the weight of everything she couldn't say. What followed was not a romance in the way movies frame romance. There were no stolen kisses, no secret meetings, no breaking of the rules that governed Maya's badge and Cora's freedom. What there was instead was something quieter and perhaps more devastating. A series of honest moments, small and careful and electric with restraint. Maya making sure the library cart came to Block D every Wednesday. Cora leaving a page torn from her journal folded under the door during inspection. Ours, not a love letter, just a poem she'd copied out by hand. About birds that learn to fly only, after they've been held still long. Enough to understand what stillness costs. Maya reading it in her car at the end of her shift. In the dark, with the engine off and her hands in her lap. Feeling the kind of grief and tenderness that only exists when love has nowhere to go. She went to the facility's ethics board herself. She disclosed a conflict of interest. Professional attachment to an inmate. Without naming it fully. Without destroying Cora's standing or her own career in a single stroke. But honestly enough that she was quietly reassigned to a different block. She did it because she knew that the most loving thing she could do for Cora was to remove herself from a position where she could compromise her. She did it because love, real love, sometimes looks like walking away from someone so that they can be safe. The morning of her reassignment, she passed Block D one last time. Cora was at the window. She pressed her hand to the glass. Maya, from the corridor, pressed 2 fingers briefly to her own chest, over her heart, and kept walking. Cora's sentence was 14 months. Maya knew this because she was human and she counted. Not with hope exactly, but with the low, patient rhythm of someone who has decided to wait without demanding anything from the waiting. She transferred to a different facility 6 months before Cora's release date, putting enough distance between them and the institution that when the day finally came, there was nothing improper about 2 women meeting for coffee at a small cafe, 3 towns away from Millbrook. Cora had been out for 2 weeks. She was wearing a soft green sweater and her hair was longer, and she sat across from Maya and they talked for 4 hours about everything, books, the sky, her brother who was safe now, Maya's sister who had just had a baby, the strange, suspended time they had both lived through, separately and together. Nothing was resolved neatly. Life did not hand them a clean beginning. There was the weight of what the system had done to Cora, the record that would follow her, the jobs that would say no before she could finish a sentence, the nights she still woke at 3 a.m. reaching for a journal to write out the fear before it could swallow her. There was the weight of what Maya carried, the guilt of having felt things inside those walls, the doubt about whether her care had ever compromised her judgment, the long work of unlearning the emotional shutdown she'd spent years perfecting. They sat with all of it. They didn't pretend. And somehow, sitting with all of it together felt like the first honest thing either of them had done in a very long time. Love between 2 women who found each other across one of the most uncrossable lines imaginable is not a fairy tale. It is not neat or triumphant or without cost. It is 2 people deciding that what is real between them deserves to exist in the light. Slowly, carefully, with full knowledge of everything it took to get there, Maya and Cora did not fall into each other. They walked toward each other, one careful step at a time, across a distance that had once felt permanent. And they kept walking. That is the whole story. That is also somehow enough. If you believe that real love finds a way, not perfectly, not without pain, but truthfully, then take a moment right now to like this video and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that connection can bloom, even in the coldest places. Your small gesture helps these stories reach the hearts that need them most. Before the story ends, drop a word in the comments, just one word, that describes how this made you feel. Your word might be exactly what someone else needed to read today. Maya still drives past fields on her way to work in the mornings. She still looks at the sky. Some days Cora sends her a poem, not copied from someone else now, but written in her own hand in her own words, from the life she is slowly and stubbornly building. Maya reads them in the car, engine off, hands in her lap, but she is not alone in the dark anymore, and neither, finally, is Cora.